Coming up.
What would you say you do here?
But there are some who question the need for it, including a member of our committee who questioned it earlier in the meeting. And so because of that, I wanted you to comment broadly on the need for the Canada Water Agency.
So what are the criteria for some of these joint funding for projects? Because the Lake Diefenbaker project was very clearly the number one ask from the government of Saskatchewan.
This guy's garage. Like and subscribe.
Thank you for having me here today. I'm Daniel Wolfish. I'm the Acting Assistant Deputy Minister for the Canada Water Agency. It's a delight for me to return to your committee and to participate in your study. And as the Chair noted, I am joined by several colleagues.
And to Mr. Wolfish, throughout the course of our study, multiple witnesses have appeared before the committee, and they've told us they really don't understand, based on the engagement with the Canada Water Agency, limited or at best kind of a handful of engagements, what the agency is actually going to do. They really don't understand what the purpose is or what specifically will be undertaken out of your office, which is deeply concerning, because I know the government has kind of tried to identify over the course of numerous years what the agency will do. And I'm sure you've seen the movie Office Space, so I'll put it in a very simplistic yet comedic manner. What would you say you do here?
Thank you for the question. So there are two key elements of our mandate that I would like to put forward. The first part is that we are to be implementing the Freshwater Action Plan that consists of 8 freshwater ecosystem initiatives across the country that will be continuing to work with provinces and territories and other partners for their implementation. The second element is the policy work that we do to coordinate the federal government, coordinate with provinces and territories, and coordinate with Métis, First Nations, and Inuit on issues around freshwater policy for the Government of Canada.
So, to me, there hasn't been a convincing argument that there is, beyond anecdotes of standardization of data, there's been some pieces that seem necessary. That said, it hasn't been convincing that there needs to be an entirely new agency. So did anyone within ECCC, as far as you know, investigate whether or not the department could have done a similar task with existing resources?
So the department undertook consultations from 2020 to 2022. They spoke with thousands of Canadians. They had a number of bilateral and multilateral conversations with provinces and territories, and held a separate consultation with First Nation, Métis, and Inuit. In much of those interactions, it was recommended that an agency be created to be a focal point for coordination, for addressing issues around data and data accessibility and availability in Canada, and to continue the work to implement the Freshwater Action Plan, including being a place for the implementation of the agreements with Ontario, Manitoba, Quebec on the freshwater ecosystem.
So we've had a number of provinces testify that the range has been at anywhere from 0 to maybe 3 meetings, if I could summarize them collectively. So the engagement, in my view, has not exactly been robust. Would you be willing to table a summary of all of those engagements? I assume you've done a What We Heard report in the development of this, and I'm less concerned about online forums, particularly with provinces who have the regulatory jurisdiction over water. Could you table that with this committee?
We'd be able to provide you documentation on what we heard in our consultations with Canadians, with Indigenous representatives, and with the provinces and territories.
Thank you. How much money has been spent thus far standing up the Canada Water Agency?
I would have to get back to you on the numbers that we've spent in this past fiscal year, but it would be the equivalent of the salaries for the people who work in the program and the implementation of our freshwater programs. We can get back to you on how much was spent or is being spent in 24-25.
How many employees are there?
So the agency is composed of the employees who were working on water previously in the various disparate units across the department. That's in the range of around 120 employees that we're working on various water programs that have now come into the agency. And then we've hired a few more to work on the policy and the coordination issues in the past year, and we're starting to build our corporate services.
How many of them are EX employees?
Our executive cadre, we have about 6. No, 2, 3, 6, 8, 9, including myself.
Have you allocated any dollars for any actual specific projects?
Indeed, we have a call out for programming for the Great Lakes. We've got a call out for Lake of the Woods, for Lake Simcoe. We have a call out for Plan Saint Laurent, and we have a call, and we are preparing calls out for the other remaining freshwater ecosystem initiatives.
Could you table a summary of the entirety of those projects with this committee?
We could table you those for which we have decisions, those that are, and we can table those for we have a call out, so we don't have the decisions yet on what those projects will be, but we can certainly table with you what the call has been, the purpose of the call.
Will the agency have any regulatory powers?
The agency will not have regulatory powers, no. The regulatory authorities from the minister that come from the Canadian Environmental Protection Act or the Fisheries Act or the Migratory Birds Act that deal with water will remain with the department.
Will you monitor water flows and or quantity, or just water quality?
Water flow will continue to be done by the Meteorological Service of Canada. Water quantity, the science work, will be continue to be done by Environment and Climate Change Canada and the Science and Technology branch.
First, I'd like to thank you for the call for proposals, in particular on this, the freshwater ecosystems, and as I represent Aurora Oak Ridges Richmond Hill, in particular for Lake Simcoe. It's very important, but many of my constituents are concerned about not only Lake Simcoe, but freshwater across Canada and the challenges we're facing. And, in fact, in the public engagement process, as reported in the What We Heard report, almost all of the people who participated in that process supported the government's initiative to establish the Canada Water Agency. I think it spans 75 days of engagement, over 2,700 Canadians, 900 national forums, 6 regional forums, tens of thousands of website visits, emails, and much, much more. And it ensured regional engagement from coast to coast to coast. So, and then in this committee, we've heard from many, many witnesses over the course of this study, most of whom support and find need for a Canada Water Agency. But there are some who question the need for it, including a member of our committee who questioned it earlier in the meeting. And so because of that, I wanted you to comment broadly on the need for the Canada Water Agency. Because even though we've had provincial territorial watershed authorities and many departments and agencies in the government addressing the serious issues facing us with fresh water, we still see that the challenges have been increasing over the past few decades. And as someone who is concerned about the future of our country and the future for the next 7 generations, as Indigenous people would often say, I feel like if we don't have this coordinated, concerted effort made by the government to establish the Canada Water Agency, that we're not going to be able to address a lot of these challenges. And I'm talking about things from, obviously, droughts, the tailings ponds, the management of water, so much, water quality, PFAS, all sorts of things we've been talking about. So if you could talk a little bit about how CWA is going to address those concerns more broadly, and how you think, or why you think this is necessary, and what might happen if we didn't put this in place at this stage in terms of the progress of these challenges and the destruction of our fresh water.
So I'd start off by saying that protecting your fresh water in Canada is a major effort, and it requires lots of different tools: regulatory, financial, information, science, modeling. It's a big effort. Right now, we're all operating in our silos. There is not much of a mechanism to share that information across those silos, to develop coordinated advice to support ministers or cabinet, to engage with provinces and territories in a coherent, integrated fashion, to provide a opportunity to hear and listen to Métis, First Nation, and Inuit perspectives, to do so in a way that's respectful of Indigenous traditions, the need for removing colonial approaches to the way we engage with them, to do a distinctions-based approach. So what we're doing in the Canada Water Agency is creating that focus, that place to be able to do that. And to be able to do that, that provides a voice directly to the minister that's not mitigated by others who have to manage or mitigate that through other avenues or vehicles. We provide an opportunity, a single window for the provinces or territories to engage with us on questions that we can then navigate the federal system with them. We won't have all the tools all the time, we won't have all the solutions, but our job is to help figure that out. For Canadians, creating a portal site, what we would call a one window on water. Wow. To help Canadians navigate the system, to get information, to connect with where the appropriate information or responsibilities lie. Water is going to be the issue of the 21st century. Water will have pressures from industrial growth, agricultural development, changes in climate change, and so having a place that can be a focal point to bring the dialogue together, provide that advice, and connect with provinces, connect with First Nations, with Métis, and with Inuit, that is something that is from my perspective, a value added that we can bring to the team.
Last week, the committee heard from witnesses from the Saskatchewan Water Security Agency, and they talked in considerable detail about a major irrigation project in Saskatchewan with water coming from Lake Diefenbaker. Mr. Wolfish, you've talked in this meeting about funding initiatives from the Canada Water Agency and joint funding for projects with the provinces, and you've said that a call for proposals went out for projects from the Great Lakes, the Lake of the Woods, Lake Simcoe, and Lake Winnipeg. Is the Lake Diefenbaker project also one of the projects that you're looking at?
So Lake Diefenbaker is not part of the particular freshwater ecosystem initiatives, although we are concerned about the basin for Lake Winnipeg. We recently had conversations with our Saskatchewan colleagues. They've raised some of these issues. I'm aware that they're also interested in investments in water management infrastructure for farmers and other agricultural needs. Some of these questions actually are important for us to coordinate and learn more about. And then for us to be able to work with them in connecting up with Housing Infrastructure Canada, Communities Canada, on the roles that they could be played in supporting some of these initiatives, if possible.
So what are the criteria for some of these joint funding for projects? Because the Lake Diefenbaker project was very clearly the number one ask from the government of Saskatchewan. How can we work that ask into the criteria for these joint fundings?
So I'm happy to share the criteria with this committee. We can come back and show you the criteria that we've used in the various, or that we are using in the various ecosystem initiatives.
Okay. Can you share it with us now, or do you have to?
Two pieces. Some of them are technical in nature. Around eligibility, we have criteria that around the priorities that would set for each of the freshwater ecosystems from the Lake Winnipeg area. One of the concerns are often around nutrient loading, Indigenous partnerships, value for money, and these sorts of pieces. So those types of criteria are used to evaluate project proposals that come in from our partners, and then those that meet those criteria may get funding.
Okay, and the call for proposals that have already gone out, have there been any calls to the government of Saskatchewan or any other stakeholders in Saskatchewan? They
tend to go out to our partners. We work in collaboration with the provinces, and so in the Lake Winnipeg area, largely with Manitoba. And then our calls will go out with an information to the provinces, and then we fund the partners directly, not the province. in most cases.
Okay, and so when you say our partners, who are you referring to?
They could be a variety of different organizations. They could be not-for-profit organizations working the landscape. They could be an organization like Alice that does work with farmers. They could be First Nation or Métis community. It could be a municipality. It could be a conservation authority. So a variety of partners that may be working in the work in those freshwater ecosystems.
And if somebody wanted to apply for one of these projects tomorrow, is there an application form on the website, or how does one go about going through the application process?
So it depends on when we've launched the call and when the closing dates are. But we have information that goes on the website. We send our information to our network of partners through the FEIs. They often call with information, with questions. We work through those questions with them, and then proposals have a date that ends. We then go through a period of eligibility review, technical review, challenge function, and then we make our recommendations.
And if I understood correctly, the potential applicants have to wait for the Canada Water Agency to contact them, or?
They are welcome to contact us with more information. Happy to give people information on the opportunities that are available.
Okay. Another concern that the witnesses expressed was duplication of services that the provinces are already doing. How will the Canada Water Agency be conscientious of not overlapping or duplicating work that provinces are already doing?
So I guess it depends on the issue and the province. Our goal is to work with the provinces in identifying the priorities that we should be having to work on. So if it's a policy area or a coordination effort, there may be a variation across the country. We'll want to hear from the provinces around their issues and their priorities. We've had a number of bilateral conversations across the country to date. We'll continue to do so. We also leverage a multilateral forum to exchange information. In the programming work that we do, we use mechanisms under the Canada Water Act, such as the MOU with Manitoba, the agreement with Quebec, the Canada-Ontario agreement, to identify shared priorities and then divide up the work.